watching these two guys play together. Look, listen, there are hiccups, and you've pointed out some of these. I know people get excited about the offense, and they maybe miss some of the other elements of the game, including, those guys being stuck on the ice, right, for that key goal the other night. But you're going to live through some of those mistakes with young players. I think it was at least encouraging to see Logan Cooley making significant strides, playing with that sort of, as Chris Peters told us long ago, that FU attitude, where he's a little bit grittier. He's in your face. He's playing with speed, playing with pace, and attacking. I like to see that Logan Cooley. Hopefully we see more of that, and we see him, basically justify this decision to keep him in the NHL the entire season rather than giving some development time down in Tucson.
Yeah, I think those two of the guys, you see what the addition of Guenther, that we both expected to be here for just 2 games or 3 games while they're waiting for Zucker on suspension. And he's earned his way onto this roster. He's got 7 points in 11 games, and in those 11 games, Cooley also has 7 points. Cooley went from 4 goals to 7 goals. With Guenther in the lineup. So I think that the chemistry is there between those two. And I don't know right now. It doesn't surprise me if Guenther goes back down at any point, especially when Hayton comes back in the lineup. They're going to have to make some lineup decisions when Hayton is ready to jump in the lineup. But until then, keep these two together. And even if they hurt you a little bit defensively, even if that's a problem, I think that's one of those tandem and those pairs that can live with this franchise for years. And so let's see if they can build some of that chemistry. We've been around coaches, Craig. They always talk about that tandem or that pair that you can, slide another guy in on their line. And I see these two being potentially a pair that can last on this franchise for a long time. Cooley, again, it's every once in a while we see those glimpses of, hey, he's getting better, he's getting better, he's getting better. And Guenther, the one thing I'll say about Guenther and his time here is those points are 5-on-5, and they're not dominating on power play like he did a season ago where everything was on the power play. He's been able to get 5-on-5 points, and I think that that's a very important part of his progression. We talked about his speed and his pace, and he's worked on all those things. So I think those two young players, I think that this is a big step in this rebuild and getting those players to continue to develop and play well. And I think that's what fans should be looking for the second half, even if the playoff race starts to fade away from the Coyotes. I still think you can look at these young players and see how they're progressing.
Dive into that a little bit with Cooley in particular, Petey. Like what are the nuts and bolts of what you need to see from Logan Cooley over not quite the second half? We're a little past the first half of the season, but what do you need to see to say, yeah, he's getting it. He's progressing even more than what we saw right at the break?
Well, one of the things you can do once and if they're staying in a playoff race, I don't know if his role changes. If they're staying around, if they're 5 points out and they're 4 points out, 3 points out, and they're in that 8, Cooley's going to have to not sit, and I don't mean sit, but Keller and Schmaltz are going to get the majority of the offensive zone draws. They're going to get the big ice time, but if that starts to fade out and they're starting to fade out, look for Cooley to get more of that ice time. Look for Cooley to get more offensive zone opportunities. Look for him to be put in situations that maybe make him a little bit uncomfortable. And let's see if he can develop from that. The other thing is you saw him playing sparingly at the wing. I would see, again, if they start to slip out of that playoff spot, I would see Cooley playing middle of the ice for the remainder of the year. I think this is, you've got a baptism by fire. You've got to learn those assignments. But then you, as a coaching staff and a management staff, maybe take some of the pressure off of his offense and go, okay, we're going to focus tonight. And this is one thing that coaches I've seen do. You have a goal for tonight. Not the rest of the year, tonight. We're going to break this down for tonight. You know what, Cools? We're going to go out there. You're not going to get scored on tonight. Let's focus on your defending. Let's be really good in the defensive zone. Let's be really good in the down low battles. Let's win those battles. Let's keep the opponent in front of you, and let's focus on your defense. And then the offense will take care of itself. So for me as a coach, I'd be looking at Cooley increasing his ice time, staying in the middle of the ice, and really starting to learn how to play 200-foot and defend. Because one of the things you saw at the University of Minnesota is when he'd get that little bit of an edge, the FU edge, he kind of lost some of the fundamentals of system play and let his skills take over. Can't do that in the NHL. So he's going to have to learn those fundamentals. I think he can still develop even if this team's not in a playoff spot.